turn it up loud, yeah. Turn it up loud, yeah, yeah, yeah. Ice, coffee, yeah. Drink with me, yeah.
Welcome to the KYP podcast, another mini episode with me, Danny, and my co-host,
KYP James.
Kevin G.
and we have a special guest today, straight from Montreal, our celebrity chef and good friend of ours,
Michael.
Michael. I know for a lot of the viewers, they probably don't know who you are. I know we've met each other at the first coffee shop I used to go to, and I remember I always used to show your page to a lot of my friends. I'm like, look, this guy can make Pokemon latte art. And
Damn.
yeah, he made like Squirtle, Bulbasaur.
Sure, I forgot about that.
For everyone out there, can you explain what you do now in a few words, few sentences?
Yeah, so I changed my whole career in terms of like I was a barista and now I'm a chef, basically.
And what are your current projects right now?
Current project, we're actually opening a restaurant, which I'm gonna be the head chef.
How did you really start in all of this? Like, because I know you started as, well, barista. You always had a love for food and drinks. But why the sudden career change?
I'll say that I started off as like a regular student. I used to go to college, did my college in like business, and I finished it up, and I got tired of like being behind the desk. One of my friends actually like went to a cooking school and was like, "Oh, you always love cooking. Why don't you try it?" At that time, I didn't even know school for cooking existed. So yeah, give it a try, and actually loved it.
And cooking school, you didn't go to culinary school in Montreal, right? Did you?
I did actually. I did two school in Montreal. One was École des métiers de la restauration du tourisme de Montréal, and then worked for a year. Then I went to ETHQ for like a higher class called ISP. And while doing that, I had an internship in France. And over there in Lyon, we had the Institut de Paul Bocuse. So I had a chance to go there as well.
How's your experience there? I mean, like, we can totally make this episode about what was that book from Anthony Bourdain, like Kitchen
Confidential.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things that happens in the kitchen, and I'm always curious because the only experience I know in the kitchen is either making food myself or watching, what was it, The Bear?
The Bear.
The Bear,
The
yeah.
Bear.
Amazing movie.
Yeah. It's a good show. It's like so stressful.
Yeah.
It is. I would say cooking in general, like in kitchen, we call it like either old school or new school. Old school, very like The Bear, which the chef is like the powerhouse of the restaurant. You get put down, you just go there, you do your job, call it a day. Your whole life is about the cooking itself. You don't very have a voice. So you go, you work, you have to have passion, you dare to learn, and that's about it.
So, like watching movies like The Bear and watching shows like Gordon Ramsay yelling at all his staff and stuff, I get a sense that it's very similar to like a military system in the kitchen. Was that your experience when you went to culinary school, when you
100%.
interned?
I say that like the first school I went to, I was super lucky. The teacher was super like cool to us. They understood that like to start off your career as a cook, you need to be able to love your job, and that is not by putting down people. So the teacher I had was amazing. They taught us like how to cook and love food and enjoy our job. As you go higher, you get the like lashback of you go out of school, you think like you're good. You go to a restaurant, you get like put down super, super quick. You get humble like in a minute. Like all the story about like, oh, you go in, your internship, you peel potato and stuff like that. That was true. That was it like back in the day.
Like cleaning the forks.
Cleaning the fork, doing the dish pit. Yeah. All of this stuff was like super legit back in the day. Now it's a bit different, obviously, just because the generation changed and people start to understand that people want to learn, and the new generation is lacking in cooking well. So it's already hard to find like good employee. So if you go in and the chef is like just putting you cut potato, do the dishes, your motivation go to zero, and then we don't have a future in the kitchen industry. That's why it's been moving toward the oh well, you're here to learn, you're just gonna learn, and all like the dirty stuff like doing the kitchen, something like dishes, are meant for like an actual dishwasher.
But like when it comes to, you know, cleaning the forks, the old method back in the days is was it like what's that saying? Like method to a madness, or what's that saying? There was there a purpose to like cleaning the forks? Is
Oh.
it like
It's
discipline?
always, yeah, 100%.
Like Karate
There's
Kid.
always like there's always a purpose of like whatever you do in a kitchen, to like cleaning the fork, spoon, to like cutting potato. It's because you get to start like doing it so well that you can do it with your eyes closed, right? So once you're used to doing it, you can start looking at what other people are doing. So if you're just there doing it and like, oh, this is boring, this is like, it sucks, but the job still has to be done by someone, right? It sucked that it fall into the hand of like an internship, but by doing that, you learn to like be super quick on your hand, do stuff without looking, and then you can do other stuff at the same time, which is looking at other people work and see what they do differently, why they do it that way and not like a different way.
That's exactly in that fork episode in The Bear.
Yeah,
Where the guy goes into this high-end Michelin star restaurant and he's just cleaning the forks, and he's like, oh, like cleaning the forks for a week. And then by the end of the week, he starts to look at how the restaurant functions. And he's like, wow, this system is like crazy at this restaurant. And he gets inspired from that. So
they say something in that episode that actually like super true for a high-end restaurant, which is he said, but why does the fork has to be like that clean, right? Like it's clean. Like why do I have to like re-clean that to be even more clean? Is that every detail count? It's not for like your average people that go, it's like, oh, whatever, it's clean, it's clean. Even like just putting it like 1 centimeter like apart, the people that will see it will see it. The people that don't just don't. But let's say high-end or any hospitality place, the little detail is like what counts. It's like, oh, every time you're gonna go there, it's like, oh, this is exactly how it was maybe like 2 years ago when I went, 3 years ago. And that is like the value of the restaurant itself.
consistency.
So it's a like a matter of also tradition in a way. Like you want to uphold, because let's say if let's say you let something slide, like the fork being slightly not polished, then what's next? Suddenly the spoon, the knives, the dishes,
exactly.
and then someone gets lazy and is like, oh yeah, it's fine. Like you don't have to like plate it this way. You can just shove the food on.
Yeah.
And then over a span of, let's say, 2-3 years, then that's where the quality goes down, because deep down somewhere, maybe some guy said, oh yeah, the meat's cheaper. It doesn't matter if it's high quality. It's fine.
Exactly.
Is there a lot of turnover in the restaurants? Like, I'm imagining, people starting out in their first fine dining restaurant, coming out of culinary school. Probably not everybody can cut it, right?
100%. I would say the turnover is, it depends place by place, I would say. It's very like the workplace that you work at is like enjoyable to work at. Like any other job, you need to enjoy working there to be able to like actually like make a career out of it and finish in that industry. I would say some places is hard. There's a lot of turnover just because like everyone is very toxic, and you can do it for a few years, that's fine. But after that, it's like, oh, is it worth it? That's why when COVID happened, a lot of people like start thinking, it's like, oh, is it worth working there? Or can I just change and do like even a better salary with like a better life and don't have that stress?
Like, so when it comes, and you were saying like it's a matter of like toxic workplace, I feel I consider food as being artistic in a way. I feel food and being in the kitchen, out of all the arts is probably one of the system that has the most hierarchy compared to everything else. So you look at, like video, photos. Yeah, if you're on a big movie set, you have the director, you have DP, you have all of these people. But in the kitchen, I think systems with a lot of hierarchy has a lot of ego involved, like the people up top. And it's not a matter, like, you might be the best cook out there.
Yep.
You might have won multiple awards. But if you've been in the kitchen for 3 months, you're not going to get the position of a head chef after 3 months. You're going to have to work your way up there. That's why there's a lot of ego.
100%. I would say that because that industry, there's so much ego happening, and that I've learned it actually recently as I goes on with my career, is that when you started off, you're a cook, right? You work, cook job, peel potato, you do garde manger, and then you slowly go up to the line, then chef de partie, sous chef, and then chef, right? But every time you go up a grade, only then you understand why that grade exists and why you couldn't do it before, right? That ego thing go more and more just because you were pushed down, and as you go up, it's oh, finally, right? Now I can I understood why those people push other people down, but that mentality has to change because communication was never a big thing in terms of what I had to do. I just knew I had to do it, and I was so busy doing it that I didn't have time to communicate with other people what I was doing. So let's say a quick example. Being a chef is not just about being a great cook. It's about all the management. You have all the paperwork to do, all the call to do. And then a chef owner is even different. Now, if a machine broke, you need to know how to fix it. But those are all the stuff that you don't know as a cook, right? You just knew, oh, well, I love making food. I'm going to make food, and then that's about it.
So the kitchen management is another part of being a chef.
Exactly.
It's not just the food. You have to also manage the kitchen.
That's why the foundations, like cleaning the forks, peeling the potatoes, you have to have crazy foundation, like you're a master of all that.
Yeah.
Because later on, as you progress, there's so many more responsibilities, right?
Yeah, especially I feel if, at first, when I used to watch, let's say, Hell's Kitchen or all of these things, these shows, I looked at Ramsay. I'm like, fuck, this guy's a bitch, man. Why is he screaming after everyone? But as I grew up and I understood cooking, hygiene, and everything, my girlfriend, she's very keen on everything being clean because her family, she grew up like that, and with the grandma, their immune system, they're not the greatest. So she cleans her dishes. She has 2 sponges, one for raw meat, one for cooked meat. And I didn't understand that. But then as I saw people reacting with allergies, people one of my friends was choking on the street because he ate peanuts accidentally. I'm like, oh shit, this is important. If you're at a meat station and you undercook your chicken because you were too busy looking at something, you can kill someone. You need to that's why I think the foundation is so important, because you're working. Let's say you have to look at other dishes, but you have to cook the chicken. If you're paying attention to something, you deliver raw chicken or raw fish. Well, raw fish is not as bad, but raw pork. That's or you give pork to someone who can't eat pork. That's
every little detail count. Because at the end of the day, right, a restaurant is making food for a customer that want to eat our food. So as a business chef owner, you need to have those responsibility up toward the customer. It's it's our job to satisfy the customer to a certain degree because they come and pay a certain amount of money for our food. So even though just making food could sound simple, but there's a lot more that goes behind it.
So I know we talked a lot about your kitchen experience as a chef, and I definitely want to know a bit more later on in the full episode. But for everyone who doesn't know Michael, you've been on a few competitions, you've been on a lot of shows, you've done a lot of media training. What made you go, into competition wise? Because for me as a photographer, I've never thought of posting my photos for arts competition. I've never done that. I'm just happy with my craft. But what made you want to push to the next level?
I would say a lot of like cooks are already like competitive, right? They will like to push themselves and prove themselves to themselves. For me, doing the show Le Chef, which is like a big Quebec competition, was to prove myself, right, to me. At that time, COVID just happened. We made it up back in the kitchen industry. I was thinking to myself too, oh, am I on the right path? Right? It's like, oh, this is super hard. Like the stress, is it worth it? Uh, can I find another job? Do I just do a career change? Or am I good for what I am? I never had like someone my age get to that level. And I never had to compare to anyone. So I always thought about myself like being like not that great. I knew I make good food, but where am I on like the standard, let's say, level? So I went on Le Chef just to like ask myself like, oh, am I actually decent as a cook? And yeah, I made it to second place.
Can you tell us about the experience on being in a show like that, a reality cooking show?
I would say like I've been in like multiple competition back in the day. Like smaller competition, like 20 people, we all compete. We had like a few dishes to do, and that was like a one-time competition. Being in Le Chef is how it is on TV. It's worse in real life. So you go in, you don't know what's the challenges. They tell you on the spot. If you know it, you know it. If you don't, that's about it. Right? Which is like, they kind of like hint you. They don't let you die. Right? But they don't tell you exactly what the challenge is. Let's say, another example, a pâté chinois, right? They're not going to tell you what it is. But they're going to bring out like a table of food. They can be like, oh, well, you have to do smashed potato. You have ground beef. You have corn. Do something with it. So if you know, good for you. If you don't, well, just make good food.
Figure it out.
Figure it out.
Improvise.
Exactly.
I know like these shows, a lot of times it happens, well, like any show, right? It's mostly for the viewers. A lot of people who go on these shows say that it's a lot more focused on filming and getting all the shots and everything. Like, does it sometimes, it leaves you a sour taste in your mouth when, you know, you're trying to cook your food, people come up to you, say like,
They're asking
yo,
you
like,
questions. Yeah.
what are you making? What are you doing that? And then when you have to present your food to the judge, I know I've heard from people who do like Master Chef, they said that the food's like cold by the time like the chef is eating it. But
so,
you,
yeah, 100%. So how that work is that if you watch Le Chef, you'll see like in the middle of like the competition, they come up to you and they'd be like, oh, so what are you doing? Right? Those moment, the timer is still run. So technique is to say the least. So you say exactly what it is, but not with detail. So let's say steak and sauce. Well, it is a steak with sauce, right? Because the thing is, if you say it and you mess it up, like in a few words, whatever, they'll make you redo it. But the timer is still run. So it's best to just tell like less detail possible and just concentrate on cooking. Now, after the competition is done, all the judges come out. They actually like touch your food. Touch your food. If it's supposed to be hot, well, it's supposed to be hot. And then obviously, like when the time to present your food on TV in front of the judge, the food is like quite cold, but they already knew if it was like hot or cold from the beginning. They don't judge you based on that.
okay.
So they give you some grace.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Presentation, taste. That's what they really look for.
Yep.
I'm also curious, you know, because it's a television production, you know, they want it to be entertaining and, you know, sometimes drama helps with that, right? Is there any aspect where, or moments where things were scripted or like you felt like they were trying to stir the pot a little bit between the competitors?
No, none of it.
No, that doesn't happen. Okay.
No, there's actually like at least, if I remember correctly, like 15 camera or more filming every single thing. So sometimes it could be super annoying, right? Like, let's say you have an hour to do a dish, you're already running. So if the camera, all the cords on the floor, you have to be careful of that too.
Oh.
But on like a minute, something like that, going, it's like running. So they already know, like they're professional at their job. They know the angle, the place to be, and not be like in your leg. But it does get quite annoying. But you get used to it.
So I think to wrap up the show, the mini episode, I wanted to ask you this question: is what is something that you didn't believe in that you now believe after you're doing something that you love?
I would say that like a lot of people would say like, oh, the cooking industry is a job that you don't make money type of thing. It's a lot about passion. You need very passion, which is true. Like I think any job you need to love your job. But mostly in the cooking industry, you need a lot of passion to be able to like survive that job. But making money is with any other job that you're a seller. If you make a good product, you're gonna sell. So if you're good, you hone your skill, you're eventually gonna make money.
I love that. So, as always, stay tuned for in a few days, for the actual full show with Michael. My name is Danny. Where can we find you?
Well, I'm gonna be at the new restaurant, Nama Omakase. Or you can find me on Instagram. Yeah, that's about it.
What's your handle?
It's michaelho._.
Also, for the viewers, if they want to catch you on Les Chefs, which season were you on?
I was on season 12.
Season 12. Check it out.
Well, again, my name is Danny. I'm here with my co-host.
KYP James.
Kevin G.
And remember,
The KYP.
Get your pride, baby.
Hey. Baby girl, you're mine.